Okay, picture this. You're standing in a supermarket aisle, maybe you're scrolling online, and you feel like you're making a choice, right? Picking out what you want. But what if I told you those choices maybe aren't quite as free as you think? Today, in this deep dive, we're really getting into something fascinating from your sources. It's called the psychology of marketing, how brands control your buying.
That's exactly right. And our mission here really is to unpack the psychological tricks, the real examples, and sometimes the totally hidden tactics that brands use. They use these to nudge your buying decisions, often in ways you don't even consciously notice.
Yeah, get ready to look at your shopping cart, maybe your browser history, a bit differently after this. Because understanding this stuff, it can genuinely empower you as a consumer. Let's dive in. So, at its heart, marketing isn't just about selling a product, is it? It seems much deeper. It feels like it's really tied into our perceptions, our feelings, our, behaviors, how brands make us feel.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what's really key here, something your sources point out, is how much we rely on what Daniel Kahneman famously called System 1 thinking. That's our fast brain.
Yeah.
It's intuitive, emotional, kind of automatic. Think about it. You grab a specific soda, maybe a Coke because it just feels right, or you recognize it. You haven't sat there and done a detailed analysis of all the drinks.
Yeah.
That's system 2, the slow, logical part. And honestly, for most everyday buys, system 2 barely gets a look in. System 1 is driving the bus.
Okay, so our fast emotional brain is in charge most of the time when we're shopping. So what are the actual psychological levers, the tools that brands are pulling to, guide that system one?
Well, there are quite a few, and they're really effective. One huge one is scarcity and urgency. You see it all the time. Only 2 left in stock, or maybe a big flashing timer. Sale ends in 1 hour. That's not just information. It directly triggers our FOMO, fear of missing out. We're wired to hate losing out on something. Some research even suggests the pain of losing, like missing a deal, feels stronger than the pleasure of gaining something equivalent. So they're selling the avoidance of regret, really.
Wow, yeah. That's subtle but makes total sense. I could definitely see myself falling for that without thinking. What else?
Then there's social proofs. We're fundamentally social animals, right? We look
Yeah.
to others to figure out what's good, what's safe, what's desirable. That's why customer reviews, testimonials, those bestseller badges, even seeing a queue outside a shop, it all works. If loads of other people like it, our brain takes a shortcut and thinks, okay, must be good.
Right. Safety in numbers, almost. And another big one you mentioned that we probably don't even register consciously is authority bias.
Exactly. Brands piggyback on the credibility of authority figures. Think about those toothpaste ads with someone in a dentist's coat, or Nike using top athletes. Their expertise or status kind of rubs off on the product, making us trust it more. And then, even more subtly, there's color psychology. Colors hit us on an emotional level. Red often signals urgency or excitement, hence sales signs. Blues suggest trust and dependability, think banks, tech companies. Yellow, like McDonald's uses, often feels optimistic, happy.
It's pretty wild how deep those color associations go. Okay, what about prices? When you see that big original price crossed out next to the sale price, is that just simple math?
Not quite. That's a classic psychological trick called anchoring. They show you that higher original price first. Your brain immediately locks onto or anchors to that number as a reference point. So the discounted price automatically seems like a fantastic deal, even if the original price was inflated or the product isn't really worth that much. It completely skews your perception of value. You're comparing it to the anchor, not its inherent worth.
Okay, these individual techniques are clearly powerful, but let's zoom out. You walk down a supermarket aisle, it looks like endless choice. Thousands of products. But are we really choosing freely? Or is there an illusion of choice going on?
That's a really critical point your sources raise. It looks like diversity, but often, if you dig a bit deeper, a huge number of those brands, even ones that seem like direct competitors, are owned by just a handful of massive corporations. Think Nestle, PepsiCo, Unilever, Procter & Gamble. Giants like that. They meticulously manage everything. Where products sit on the shelf, how brands are positioned. They even create different brands that compete with each other just to capture more of the market. So yeah, you feel like you're making a choice from hundreds of options, but often those options have been carefully curated and controlled by just a few key players. It makes you wonder how much real choice there is.
So it's not just about the product inside the box, but the box itself, the packaging. That matters a lot too, right? It's like a silent salesperson. Oh, absolutely. Packaging is huge. It's psychology made visible. It connects directly with your values, your memories, even how you see yourself. Think about Apple's packaging, super minimalist, clean. It just screams premium, high-tech, quality. Or look at brands using, obviously, eco-friendly packaging, recycled materials, natural colors. That instantly signals ethical, sustainable, right? Like The Body Shop or Patagonia. And then you have vintage designs like the old school Coca-Cola glass bottle. That evokes nostalgia, trustworthiness, a sense of heritage. It's all carefully calculated.
It really is becoming clear. Brands aren't just pushing items. They're selling, well, bigger ideas. Lifestyles, identities, stories. It's all about the emotion, isn't it? Emotional branding. You've nailed it. That's the core strategy for so many successful brands. They sell a feeling, an aspiration, not just a thing. Nike, for example. Are they just selling shoes and apparel? No. They're selling motivation, that feeling of achieving your best, the whole just do it spirit. Apple isn't just selling phones and laptops. They're selling creativity, innovation, being part of something cool and forward-thinking. Even Starbucks, is it just about the coffee? Or is it about that feeling of belonging, a little moment of self-care, being part of a certain, coffee culture?
That makes me think about how some brand things just get stuck in your head. A jingle, a logo, a slogan, you hear it and boom, the feeling is right there, almost automatic.
Yeah, that's a well-documented psychological phenomenon called the mere exposure effect. Basically, the more we're exposed to something, even passively, the more familiar it becomes. And our brains are wired to prefer the familiar. Familiarity breeds liking, sometimes even trust. That's why brands invest so much in catchy jingles, memorable mascots, slogans that get repeated everywhere. Think McDonald's, I'm loving it. Over time, it just conditions us. The brand feels comfortable, safe, appealing, just because we've seen or heard it so often.
And now with everything online, these tactics must be on steroids, right? Brands have constant access to us, personalized access.
Exactly. The digital world has supercharged all of this. They have a whole new toolkit of behavioral nudges. Think about infinite scroll on social media feeds or shopping sites. It's designed to keep you hooked, make it hard to stop looking, or constant push notifications pinging you with deals or updates. Then you've got retargeting ads. Ever look at a product online, then suddenly see ads for it everywhere you go? That's retargeting. It keeps the product top of mind, reignites that initial interest, and maybe the most powerful are the personalized recommendations. Algorithms analyze your behavior, your clicks, your past purchases, and predict what else you might want, sometimes freakishly accurately. They almost know you better than you know yourself.
Which brings us to something even more, sci-fi sounding. Actually looking inside our brains to see how we react. Neuromarketing.
Yeah, this is the cutting edge. Neuromarketing. Brands are using tools straight out of neuroscience labs. Things like EEG scans to measure brainwave activity, fMRI scans to see which parts of the brain light up, even eye tracking to see exactly where people look on an ad or package. They use this data to test everything: ads, logos, packaging designs, colors. They want to see what literally stimulates the emotion centers in the brain, what triggers those little dopamine hits associated with pleasure and reward. The goal is to optimize their marketing to create the strongest possible positive neural response, making the message stick and making you more likely to buy. They're essentially trying to map the buy button in your brain.
Okay, let's pull this all together. Can you give us a real-world example where a brand used a bunch of these techniques really successfully?
The fantastic example is Coca-Cola's Share a Coke campaign. Remember that? Where they put people's names on the bottles instead of the Coke logo. That campaign was genius because it hit so many psychological buttons at once. First, personalization. Seeing your own name or a friend's name on a Coke bottle. That creates an immediate, powerful sense of identity and connection. It feels special, made just for you. Then it tapped into social proof and sharing dynamics. People started searching for bottles with their friends' names, buying them as gifts, taking pictures, sharing them online. It wasn't just about drinking a Coke, it was about the social act of sharing and connecting. This blend of personalization, identity, and social sharing created a huge wave of emotional engagement. And the results? They saw a significant sales lift. I think it was around 2.5% in the US alone, which is massive for a brand that size. It just showed how potent these psychological levers are when used smartly. So yeah, when you piece it all together, like in the Coke example, you see it's rarely just about the product itself. You're buying into carefully constructed emotions, identities, narratives, all shaped by this deep understanding of marketing psychology.
It really changes how you look at things. So maybe the takeaway for everyone listening is this. Next time you're about to buy something, whether it's online or in a store, just pause for a second. Ask yourself, did I genuinely choose this? Or was I nudged towards it?
Start trying to spot these techniques out in the wild. Notice the scarcity tactics, the colors, the social proof, the way things are packaged. Just observing how brands are subtly guiding your choices. It is fascinating, and honestly, it makes you a much smarter, more conscious consumer in the end.